Chapter 28. Celestine woke up at 6 o'clock in the morning. He boiled a pot of hot water and placed it there so that the two children could wash their faces with the warm water. Celestine did not grow up in Chuhua, but because some of his friends were in Chuhua, he came to Chuhua to develop his career after he retired from the army. After living here for a while, Celestine's impression of Chuhua was the weather. In Celestine's words, "This weather is sick and needs to be treated." The temperature in Chuhua always made people feel bad. The temperature yesterday was close to 30 degrees, but today it could suddenly drop to 10 degrees. Perhaps it was because the temperature did not drop steadily, but there was still a lot of green in the school. Of course, there were also dead leaves, but among the green and brown beside the road, people would always notice the green first. Perhaps it was because green made people feel better. Celestine did not sleep the whole night. He looked for information until very late. Just as he was about to take a nap, the Jiao Pa called Celestine to tell him that the temperature was dropping and asked him to help take care of the two children. After the phone call, Celestine did not feel sleepy. He played spider cards out of boredom. He played from the intermediate 2 sets of cards to the advanced 4 sets of cards. After that he started to sweep the mines. He kept clearing the records until dawn. Although he did not sleep the whole night, Celestine was still energetic in the morning. It was still early, so he planned to go for a run and bring breakfast for the two children on the way back. In order to prevent the two children from being suspicious when they woke up, Celestine wrote a note and placed it at an eye-catching place on the dining table. He was about to leave when he stopped and looked at Jing Tan, who was sleeping on the sofa. Ever since he scratched the thief that day, Jing Tan always felt that there was a bloody smell on his claws. He was afraid that it would affect the children. He heard that the smell of blood would stimulate the children and make them more likely to have nightmares, so Jing Tan did not sleep on Gu Yuzi's bed. However, Gu Yuzi took out her furry cloak and gave it to Jing Tan as a blanket. There was a hood on the furry cloak and 2 cat ears were sewn on the hood as decoration. At this moment, Jing Tan was curled up in the fur cloak, sleeping soundly like a ball. Jing Tan had never understood why cats would curl up into a ball and sleep. Wouldn't they be tired of sleeping in that position? But when Jing Tan turned into a cat, he realized that this sleeping position was quite comfortable for a cat. Sometimes he would unconsciously curl up into a ball when he fell asleep, just like now. "Black Charcoal, go for a run." Celestine, who was standing by the door, shouted in a low voice. There was no movement under the fur cloak. "Black Charcoal, get up and run," Celestine said again. He didn't believe that the cat on the sofa couldn't hear him. The tip of his ears that peeked out from the edge of the fur cloak twitched, and then, there was no more then. Celestine was speechless. This little bastard was definitely pretending to be deaf again. "Black Charcoal," Celestine said for the 3rd time with a hint of warning. Jing Tan still didn't move, but it was a little better than before. Jing Tan snorted through his nose, indicating that he heard it. "If there's nothing else, you can go away. Black Charcoal, get up," Celestine said for the 4th time. This time Jing Tan finally moved. He stretched his body and revealed his head from the fur cloak. He squinted his eyes and looked at Celestine. He yawned and waited for 5 seconds. Seeing that Celestine didn't say anything else, he retracted his head and went back to sleep. "Black Charcoal, get up and run," Celestine said almost word by word. This time Jing Tan finally made a big move. He kicked off the fur cloak, stretched his body and shook his fur. Celestine was speechless. He didn't know that he had to call a cat 5 times to wake it up. "Are you going to step on the breast on the sofa or pee in the bathroom?" Celestine gritted his teeth. Jing Tan pulled his ears. He wouldn't do things like step on breast. If he wanted to step on breast, he would step on big boobs. What was the point of stepping on the sofa? Jing Tan always felt that as one of the cat's signature moves, stepping on breast was quite wretched, especially when this wretched technique was inherited from a group of people. This was almost a common characteristic of cats. Stepping on breast wasn't necessary, but it still needed to pee in the morning. Looking at the black cat running to the bathroom, Celestine helplessly looked at the ceiling. How could the Jiaos treat this kind of cat as a treasure? Because of the sudden drop in temperature, Jing Tan felt a chill as soon as he stepped out of the building, making him shiver. The sun hadn't come out yet, so the campus was still quiet. Other than the sound of things being dragged in the cafeteria, there weren't any other loud noises. However, when Jing Tan was halfway through his run, the school broadcast rang on time. It started at 6:30 a.m. every day and continued until 7:30 a.m. When he passed by the student dormitory, the school broadcast had already stopped playing the initial song and began to play the radio calisthenics. Starting now, the 8th set of radio calisthenics, step on the spot. 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8. F***CK, why are you so noisy so early in the morning? A manic voice came from the dormitory facing the loudspeaker. Before the voice died away, a slipper was thrown out from the window of the dormitory and hit the loudspeaker, but it still couldn't stop the sound of the school broadcast. Jumping exercise 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 2 2 3 4. I'll smash you sooner or later. Just you wait, the day I leave school will be the day you die of old age. Listening to the noise coming from the other side, Xianxia suddenly had a feeling of joy. Not everyone could get used to earplugs. Poor people who thought that they could avoid the morning self-study after going to university. They didn't need to go to morning self-study, but there was still this kind of nonsense and the school broadcast that would sound on time every weekday. Xianxia was glad that he lived in the east courtyard, where the family compound was relatively quiet. He could only hear the broadcast when he walked out of the compound, so he could still sleep in if he wanted to. When he finished running one lap, the school broadcast still didn't play the news from the Central People's Radio station, which meant that it wasn't 7 a.m. yet. Zhou Yuan and the others all woke up at 7 a.m. Celestine went to the cafeteria to buy breakfast first, and Xianxia waited for him to buy breakfast before walking back to the family compound. When he returned to the compound, he met Old Man Yen, who came out to walk his dog. Niu Zhuangzhuang, the guy with big head and small eyes, was wagging his tail vigorously after seeing Xianxia. Although Niu Zhuangzhuang fought fiercely, it was quite nice to the other pets in the compound. Huang often licked its fur. Xianxia saw that Huang spat out white and brown fur a few days ago, so it must be the fur of Niu Zhuangzhuang and Hua Zhanggua. Celestine sometimes practiced Tai Chi with some old men in the morning, so he was quite familiar with some of the old men in the compound, so Old Man Yen also knew Celestine. When he saw Celestine, he even greeted him. "This dog is quite brave," Celestine said as he looked at Niu Zhuangzhuang, who was led by Old Man Yen. When Old Man Yen heard this, the wrinkles on his face deepened. Recently, Old Man Yen especially liked to tell people about the glorious deeds of his Zhuangzhuang. However, Niu Zhuangzhuang didn't have a good attitude towards Celestine. Perhaps it was an animal's innate intuition, so it kept avoiding Celestine. If Celestine stared at it for a long time, it would even bare its teeth at Celestine. Old Man Yen looked at the breakfast Celestine bought and said disapprovingly, "You bought eggs and soy milk? A few days ago I heard that if you eat eggs and soy milk together, not only will it not increase your protein intake, but it will also affect the normal absorption of protein. I don't remember the specific principle and I'm not in that field of research. You can ask little Jiao, they should know." After Celestine thanked Old Man Yen, they said goodbye to each other. Old Man Yen still had to take Niu Zhuangzhuang for a walk, and the two children of the Jiao family probably got up as well. The school radio was about to start broadcasting the news from CCTV. On the way home, Xianxia was still thinking about what Old Man Yen said. Thinking back, when he was in the Jiao family, he didn't seem to have seen eggs and soy milk together. Even if he did, the eggs were for the Zhou Yuan to prevent him from starving, so he wouldn't eat them immediately. In the end, Celestine still made milk for the two children. Lan Tianzhu and Suan came to ask the Zhou Yuan to go to school together, so Xianxia didn't have to go with them to Fu Elementary School. Xianxia thought that since Celestine was here for the next 2 days, he should find a way to tell him about the matter as soon as possible. Regardless of whether it would work out or not, at least it would be a confirmation of his idea. When Celestine was in the bathroom, Xianxia came to the bedroom and jumped onto the Jiaopa's desk. There were some books on the desk that the Jiaopa often used. Xianxia's first target was the book Genetics. The Jiaopa helped people teach genetics classes, and Xianxia had seen all of the Jiaopa's PowerPoint presentations so far this semester. Every time after the PowerPoint presentation was done, the Jiaopa would try to teach it himself. Some details would only be noticed when he was teaching. This was the Jiaopa's habit. Xianxia pulled out the book Genetics. What he needed to do now was to find the information he wanted from the Jiaopa's classes that he hadn't taken yet. Xianxia wasn't sure if what the Jiaopa said at the hospital that day was the content of this book. He was just trying his luck. If he couldn't find the information in this book, he could always find another one. For a cat, turning the pages was not an easy task, but Xianxia was already used to it. He would get used to it after a while. When Jing Tan was turning the pages, his ears would also pay attention to his surroundings. If he heard Celestine come out, Jing Tan wouldn't turn the pages like this. After all, a cat flipping through a professional book like this would really scare people. Even if Jing Tan didn't understand these things at all, it would still look unusual to others. Fortunately, Jing Tan soon found the information he wanted. No wonder the Jiaopa talked about the development process before birth that day in the hospital. Looking at the time, the Jiaopa would talk about it in his class next week. The Jiaopa just read a little more when he was preparing for the class. When Celestine went into the bedroom to get the files, he saw the black cat squatting next to the computer, fiddling with a bookmark. Don't scratch that out. That's your Jiaopa's record. Because the bookmark had been scratched out by Jing Tan for a long time, Celestine took the book, Genetics, and opened the page where the bookmark was. He put the bookmark back into the book. Just as Celestine was about to close the book, he caught a glimpse of some words on the page from the corner of his eyes. He immediately stopped. After reading it, he turned another page. After reading the content on the last page, Celestine frowned and read the content several times. In fact, this content was some of the content that the Jiaopa talked about at the hospital that day. The words on the edge of the page related to the human gender controversy were the notes that the Jiaopa made when he was preparing for the class. Jing Tan didn't put the bookmark directly on the page of the content that he wanted. Instead, he put it on the page before the content, which could serve as a cover.